So you just came down on orders, you're PCSing to Hawaii, and your next duty station is Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you the context of where the base is at. We're going to pull up the map. We're going to talk about the communities, things that are offered around this base, everything that you need to know, and we're going to get after it right now. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Living in Hawaii channel. Everything on this channel is about living in Hawaii, everything that you need to know. The up, down, left, right, the good, the bad, the ugly, the military bases, everything that you need to know if you're PCSing to Hawaii. So if you're new here, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and that notification bell so that you get notified every time that we upload a new video on this channel. And honestly, look, I get so many soldiers and people from around the world reaching out, calling, texting, emailing, sending me DMs, scheduling their own Zooms down in the description below, getting a hold of me any way that they feel comfortable with, and you can do exactly the same thing. Okay, if you are moving here, feel free to reach out. You can do by any of those methods, however you want to reach out. I got your back when moving to Hawaii. As I mentioned in the beginning, this video is for you if you are PCSing because you're in the Navy or in the Air Force and you are PCSing out here to either Hickam, right, or Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. And so you're looking for that information, and that's exactly what we're going to give to you, right? We're going to show you the map. We're going to pull up the maps. We're going to talk about all these things, the communities, what you may want to consider, right, when you're moving here with your family or if you're a single soldier, these types of things. But we always like to start off with a little bit of historical context. Hickam Field is actually named in honor of aviation pioneer Lieutenant Colonel Horace Meek Hickam. Then of course there's other things that you have probably heard of, such as the Japanese bombing, right? December 7th, 1941, day of infamy, right? The day will forever live in infamy, sorry. So these are the things, right, that you've probably seen. So when you're actually driving around the base too, they've left a lot of the things the way that they are, right? So in certain areas you will see bullet holes still in some of the towers or something like that, depending where it's at and what it's needed for. But a lot of it is still historical. The Arizona Memorial is something else that's over there. So you can actually, there's a lot of tours that go on the Arizona Memorial, which is not actually considered a sunken ship because the staff still sticks out of the water. But there's a ton of other ones too. Again, Pearl Harbor, Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam is a historical place. Now, these two bases weren't always joined at the hip. Back in 2010, there was actually a closure of the base, and so the commission decided on sort of a realignment, really, and they just decided to combine the two powerhouses. So now it is known as JBPHH, or Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. So again, Navy and Air Force both share this base, and both are going to be working at this base for the most part. So something that you got to think about when you're walking around the base, right? Ranks, uniforms, these types of things. Major Air Force units that call Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam home are going to be the 15th Wing, 647th Air Base Group, and the Joint MIA POW Accounting Command. There are several other commands, including the Navy commands with the USS Pacific Fleet. I gave you a little bit of the history. Now we're actually going to pull up the map so that you can get better context of where this base is actually located on Oahu, and then we can dive into some of the other topics like the communities, the amenities, and things like that. So let's go ahead and pull up the map and take a look at this. So on our calls, we typically look at Oahu as a triangle, right? And then at the bottom of the triangle, you have almost like a horseshoe inlet, okay? This inlet is going to divide the bottom of Oahu. And now there are no roadways over this inlet, under this inlet, anything like that. So we'll talk about this a little bit when we talk about proximity and driving in order to get around it. But on the right side of this inlet, you're going to have Joint Base Pearl Harbor and the Honolulu International Airport. On the left side, you're going to have Ewa Beach, okay? And then heading up into the center parts, you're going to have Waipahu and Pearl City. So on the right side of this inlet, you do have Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. The zip code of this area is 96818, and as you can see here on the map, that we have it highlighted in red for you, where you can see the Joint Base Pearl Harbor and then some of the names of some of the areas around it. Don't worry about trying to sound those out right now. We'll make sure that you can sound them out correctly when we start talking a little bit more about them. So as you can see that the airport, it's like there's literally Joint Base Pearl Harbor, there's Hickam Field, and then there's the airport, Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. Okay, and then to the right of that is when you start to hit Kalihi Palama, and then you're gonna head towards town and all that. Now, there's a lot of things in this area. It's actually kind of a busy area of the island, and there's a lot going on in this area, but it's also a nice part that I like to be around, and I actually grew up in this area. So because I was a military brat, and when I moved here when I was a young boy, I lived over on the Alimanu military reservation over there for a little bit. And I grew up in this area. I grew up in Salt Lake, which we're going to point out here shortly. And I went to middle school and high school over here. So something to look forward to when we talk about this later. So it only makes sense, right, that the Navy, the Air Force, they share the base, right? And then they also share the runways with the airport, right? So only makes sense, right? Why have a whole nother one? There are other airports that a lot of planes can come in and out of, right? But this is the main airstrip right here, attached to Joint Base Pearl Harbor, right? Easy access to the airstrip over at the airport. One of the other areas that we do want to point out on this map as we zoom it out a little bit for you is going to be Tripler Army Medical Center, okay? Tripler Army Medical Center, and as most hospitals are on maps, they're going to be sort of your pinkish red circles or colored areas on maps. So anytime you're looking at these maps, whether it be on iPhone, Google, whatever it may be, if you see any of these pink areas like this, those are medical centers, okay? So on this map, as you can see over here, you're gonna have Kaiser Permanente, right? Kaiser Medical Center. You're gonna have Tripler Army Medical Center, right? You're gonna have the Center for Education. I actually took classes over here. So when I was doing a little bit of school stuff, I was able to take classes. There's a little bit of an education center in the back. It's actually close to the Spark Matsunaga VA clinic, which I also go to, right, for veteran services and things like that. So back to the map, as you can see here, the Tripler Army Medical Center emergency room, Tripler Hospital, Spark Matsunaga, as I just mentioned. There's also IHG Army Hotels back there as well. So Tripler Fisher House and Tripler Ridge Trail. So Tripler is a big pink hospital on the hill. I think we pointed this out in some of the other videos with Schofield and whatnot, but Tripler, like, you can't miss it when you are driving down H1. You can't miss it. It's a big pink hospital, and we'll pull up a picture here for you guys as well. It's a big pink hospital on a hill. Can't miss it at all. And so how far is the drive actually from, let's say, Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam to Tripler Army Medical Center? We've added in some directions here so that you can see and you can get a feel, but your typical drive from Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam over to Tripler Army Medical Center, it's literally right around the corner. It's not that far, but it can be anywhere from, 15 to 20 minutes depending on traffic. If you get stuck in traffic, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it's a fairly quick trip from the Navy base over there to the Tripler Army Medical Center, especially if you have an emergency. Not that far, not that bad. And again, you're heading to the big pink hospital. You can't miss it. There's not that many ways that you can go, so head that way. Couple other places to note, like Ford Island, which you're going to see when we pop up on the map right now. You can see this little island sort of way in the inlet. Over there, you're going to have the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. There's a lot of nice houses over here too. I believe we're going to talk about, obviously, the on-post housing, but as last I heard and knew, it was for the more higher ranked officials in the Navy or the Air Force. So if that is you and you're considering living over here, you can definitely check that out. If you try to drive over to Ford Island, they do have a gate checkpoint in which you have to be authorized to go. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you can pass through, whether you're a resident or whatever the case may be. On the other side, you're going to have Sand Island, where there was rumored to be a big purchase by Mr. Bezos for maybe an Amazon distribution facility. But that's besides the point. That's just rumors that I've heard. There is a Sand Island softball field. There's also some other businesses and things like Matson and shipping and whatnot over here. But that's one area. And then, of course, we're going to zoom out and we're going to talk about going downtown Waikiki and these areas. So because of the location of Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam, where it is located right at the airport, you can get to downtown Honolulu, you can get to Chinatown or downtown Waikiki relatively fast, right? Compared to a lot of other areas, when you live in this area, you can get there within 10 to 15 minutes, depending on traffic and time of day. I can't stress that enough. That is one of the things we talk about on just about all of our calls is traffic, right? Proximity to work and traffic. Traffic is so variable dependent on time of day. The time that you leave is going to determine a lot. But in order to you're just literally going right around the corner from the inlet, right? So we have a hat. And then you're gonna hit Chinatown, downtown Honolulu first, and then you can get into Waikiki. So not that far of a drive if you wanted to make sure that you had that proximity to town, right? And we're going to talk about the areas that you may want to consider living. Talking about some of the areas that you may want to consider living in if you are considering living off post. So we're going to pull up the map here. We always like to give you sort of a reference of where, again, we get on so many of these calls, right? And we like to sort of address these questions now, and we can talk about them again on the call as well. But just so you have sort of a peace of mind, one of the biggest things that always comes up, we always ask, what are your goals? What are your priorities when it comes to finding your house? And a lot of times, oftentimes, people will say, I want to be within 20 to 25 minutes of work. Sometimes 30 is okay. Sometimes people say they don't care. But for the most part, 20 to 25 minutes of work is what we are hearing when we get on our calls, right? And so pulling up the map here, and you can see Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam again. Some of the areas you may want to consider looking at as far as where you might want to live with your family are going to be over there in Aiea Heights. Aiea Heights is an area that a lot of people like as far as being up in the hill. A lot of the climate up there is really nice, the breezes and whatnot. Moanalua Valley is another area that you may want to consider if you're talking about living within the proximity of very close to base. Okay, if you're a single soldier and you're allowed to live off post as well, you're probably thinking you may want to live closer to Waikiki, right? When you're not working on the ships or anything like that, you want to be in paradise. You want to be down in Waikiki. I just caution you because of the drive, depending on if you drive a motorcycle or whatever it is that you drive, I caution you with the drive. Again, that's all variable dependent on the time of day, but it's something you got to consider, right? And then how much is it really worth it living in a high-rise building? That's totally up to you and what you're comfortable with if you are a single soldier looking for that lifestyle. Some will rent out a cheaper place over in a Salt Lake building, right? Salt Lake is literally right there. Some will live in there, and then basically if they are not using all of their BAH, then it's just sort of another form of cash flow, right? So those are two of the areas that we noticed that a lot of people a lot of people that work or are being stationed at these bases will live. If we start to branch out further, when we keep that drive time in mind and the time of day that you're going to be leaving and traveling to work, because of its location, we know that some will branch out towards the Kaneohe Kailua area because you can literally hop on the Pali Highway or the Like Like and head down and be there rather quickly. Some will even take the H3, but you can be there rather quickly, and this is starting to push that 25 to 30 minute bill. Again, variable dependent on the time of day, but you're starting to push around that 30-minute bill when it comes to your traffic time, okay? Now, that's to the east side. If we talk about western, if we start heading western and staying within these parameters, right? So because of the prime location of it being really in the center, south center part of the island, there's a lot of options here, right? There's a lot of options available to you if proximity to work is something that you really care about, okay? So let's talk about some of the areas on the western, sort of the central and western side. Heading towards the central areas, a lot of soldiers will look at the area of Waipio. Some will branch up to Mililani, not a ton, but some will because that starts really pushing out. But Waipio is an up-and-coming area. There's actually newer homes called Koa Ridge. It's a newer development community over there, but some will look at the Waipio area. Maybe they're comfortable living in a townhome or condo unit over there. Matter of fact, when I was showing a home, I was waiting to go in the home and I saw a soldier park, and I asked him just, oh, hey, what's going on? How do you like living over here? Things like that. And he loved it. He actually was sharing his apartment with another soldier, and they just split the rent and, pocketed the rest of their BAH. So Waipio is something. There's a Costco in Waipio. Again, you're just south of Mililani if you're looking for something to be closer to the gyms. And then you're just north of Pearl City and Pearl Ridge. There's a mall over there. So the proximity of those things, right? If we start pushing a little bit more west, then we're talking about areas such as Ewa Beach, Kapolei, right? And then if you want to even go further west, then you're going to be looking at areas most likely over there in Maili or Sea Country, right? And that's not foreign to people in the military who don't care about their drive time. So Sea Country is an area over there on this channel. I actually have a home tour. If you're looking on the playlist, or if you're searching on the channel and you search for the Waianae area, I went in and I was in the community of Sea Country, and I toured a home that was beautifully redone, farmhouse style, over there in Sea Country, like literally, 5 minutes from the beach. Beautiful area over there, but that is really going to kick up your drive time when we talk about to and from work on a daily basis. Again, if you don't care, maybe that's an area you're looking at, because the cost of living is going to be a little bit cheaper, right? You may get more bang for your buck over there if you don't care about proximity to work, okay? Eva Beach, same thing, because of Eva Beach and Fort Weaver Road. That's something that you've got to consider. Fort Weaver Road traffic in the morning is treacherous. And so that's something you got to consider if, again, proximity is on your mind. So you can start pushing your 35-minute and up bill depending on, time of day, as always. Kapolei, you'd be a little bit closer to H1 depending on where you are. But again, you're up there with around the 30-minute-ish time frame, depending, right? So again, some people, I've gotten some comments, you're crazy, that's not how traffic is. Like, depends on how fast you drive, right? Depends on the time of day that you leave, all these things, right? So take all this into consideration, take it with a grain of salt. You'll know when you get on the road and things like that, but we're just trying to provide you the best information possible to help you make that decision. So as far as on-post housing goes, we've kind of mentioned it. Hickam Air Force Base does actually have some really nice on-post housing. They keep it pretty updated, and there's about over 4,000 units for on-post housing for soldiers with families, right, who do qualify and want to live in on-post housing. And then of course these things fluctuate by rank and number of dependents and whatnot, right? So the problem oftentimes is there's a waiting list. Sometimes there's a waiting list that is only a couple weeks, but this waiting list can get up to several months, okay? So it really depends. Last I heard too, for anybody PCSing here, because PCSing season, right, after everything had happened with COVID and whatnot, after all of that had happened, everything was on a pause, and then when basically the pause was lifted, it was like a ton of people. So you're definitely going to want to check out and get on the ball with that. The other thing, when you first get here and you start in processing, is you're going to meet with the housing office anyway, right? And you're going to talk to them about your options, and they're going to also talk to you about your TLA and how you can go about getting that and situating your housing circumstances. But as far as Hickam on-post housing, right, as far as that goes, it is nice. It is some of the nicer housing that the military has. One of the things that I saw in a comment, and I've heard this quite a bit, but cockroaches. How are the bugs here? So people say, oh, that place has so many cockroaches, whether it be on post or wherever you live. There's cockroaches everywhere on this island. There's literally like cockroaches, I mean, bigger than my AirPods case, right, that are flying around, and it's crazy, right? There's cockroaches everywhere on this island. If you think you're going to avoid it, you're not. That's why pest control is a big business out here. There's tons of pest control places that you can call, and they'll come and spray, and then you'll just see all the dead bodies of cockroaches. And not to get too, vulgar over here, but they just appear, all the dead bodies, right? So there's cockroaches everywhere. If you think you're going to live on base and live in some, royalty housing and there's not going to be any cockroaches, I don't care how clean you are, there's probably going to be cockroaches. We live in such a tropical environment for that. Cockroaches to live, that's just the way it is, right? Of course we don't like to see them, and when we see them we think we're dirty. It's just like a trigger, right? But just letting you know, and that's no reason to be dirty, but just letting you know, if you go insane because you think you're cleaning everything you can with bleach and Clorox and they're still appearing, just know that you may just need to get a pest control out there and spray. When we talk about amenities, we're typically talking about off post. Of course, on post, the military is going to provide you with a lot of things, right? Bowling alleys, little movie theaters, these types of things, but we all know that they're not typically the best, and a lot of times you're going to end up finding yourself branching off post to go find your amenities. So when we pull up the map here, we're going to show you some of these things that are close to the base and things that you may want to consider. I've already talked about Restaurant 604 and being a cool spot to go hang out and have a beer and enjoy a sunset and these types of things. Let's point out some of the other ones. So on the map here, you can see Aloha Stadium right here. And so Aloha Stadium is going to be really close to base, pretty much right outside of base. And so we used to have the Pro Bowls here. We haven't had Pro Bowl here in quite a few years. They're actually looking at building a new stadium on another part of the island, but one of the biggest things that happens at the stadium is the swap meet. A lot of tourists will go to the swap meet, and then it's a lot of local vendors, basically who make necklaces, slippers, whatever it may be that they make, that a lot of tourists come and they get their sort of aloha gifts. So the swap meet is really cool to see what people make and can bring in design. So that's something cool to do. That's pretty close. One of the things that you have available to you is the NEX. The NEX, you're gonna have, there's a furniture store, there's an NEX furniture store. You have the big main NEX shopping center, which is huge. They redid this, man, I can't remember when they redid this, but when you walk in, make sure you look up at the ceiling and you see the big ocean with the whales and the painting, super cool. It's pretty cool stuff, and they have a good food court up there as well. I love the food court up there, but the NEX is really cool place. And then right over in the NEX area too, you're also gonna have the commissary. Well, it's literally right next door, you can't miss it. You're gonna have the commissary next door for your military shopping, right? Tax-free shopping. So these are things that are really directly in the area. If you're looking to go towards the mall, the closest mall is gonna be Pearl Ridge. I don't really go to Pearl Ridge a ton. If I were you, I would just head east and go to Ala Moana, take the little bit extra drive. But I understand sometimes you want shopping to be closer, especially if you're just looking to get to a Verizon or something, right? But Pearl Ridge Center is literally around the corner. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying literally. That's like my word of the day. I think my son said it to me and now it's stuck in my head. Pearl Ridge Center is not that far away if you're heading west, but that's one of the malls that is the closest. Talking about a Target, you have a Target right around the corner. You have an Ashley Furniture Store, tons of cool things over there. And then we talked about some of the golfing in the area. Last thing I want to talk about is outdoor activities. On base, you actually have Hickam Beach. It can get pretty packed over there, and obviously you have to be in the military to get on the base and go to Hickam Beach and use that. But if you want to branch out, there's tons of other things. Actually, one of the cool hikes, this is a longer hike. It's not as scenic, but it's pretty cool, is Aiea Loop. That's something you can look up. And again, all hiking is at your own risk. I take no responsibility, no liability. Disclaimer, you hike at your own risk and your own skill level, okay? Don't do it for the gram. But Aiea Loop is not that bad. I took my dog on it, and it's a long one though. You're gonna get your miles in. It provides some pretty cool views though. You hit a point where you are walking and you come to sort of the back of Tripler, and you can see the backside of Tripler Hospital, and you can actually look, you're overlooking the H3 highway up into the Harana Tunnel. So pretty cool hike there within close proximity. And then if you head east, like we were saying, there's more to do. You can hit Hawaii Kai on the other side. A lot of hiking over there in the Kaneohe Waihe'e Falls, which I actually think is closed right now. Hawaii Kai, we got Coco Head. We actually did a vlog tour of Hawaii Kai not too long ago. One of the more recent videos on this channel. Ridge and myself were on that vlog. Touring around Hawaii Kai, took you to China Walls, so we can see China Walls, and some other things. We took you to Infinity Beach and the Blowhole, Sandy's Beach. We checked out some of the houses over there. So go check out that community tour. I'll actually leave it up on the screen for you when this video is over, so you can just click it and you can go check it out right away. But as far as outdoor activities go, I mean, Hawaii is like the king of outdoor activities. If you never get tired of hiking and you never get tired of the beach and you never get tired of surfing, right? I mean, then Hawaii just might even be the place for you, okay? So we've covered a lot in this video, and one of the things that we always try to, talk about and help military service members understand is your BAH benefit. The reason we don't hit on post housing too much, we understand that not a lot of soldiers are comfortable with going to a new area and diving right into a home when they get here. And so what happens is a lot will either rent for 3 to 6 months before deciding, okay, what's the long-term play here? Do we start investing in a home now that we've gotten our feet wet? What a lot of them will do is they'll find a short-term rental. So it can be a month, it can be up to 3 months. And that's the time where you're getting used to your commute to work. Is this the commute that I want? Let me check out some of the areas, figure out those drive times, like I've hit on a lot on this video, right? You're really getting your feet wet, so your boots on ground, you're getting your feet wet, and you're trying to figure this out. Then, however, you've sort of negotiated your short-term rental for 1 to 3 months, right? Then we start getting into the home buying process, and then we really start doing showings, and we hit the ground running because you decided you do want to invest in a home here and maybe even plant roots for the long game. So this is something that we really talk about on our calls, is your BAH benefit and not paying somebody else's mortgage with it, okay? You don't want to give in to somebody else's mortgage. Why not help build your own wealth and your own assets, right, with your own BAH that the military gives you? So like I said in the beginning of this video, if you are loving the content on here, please hit the like button. It'll help anybody else PCSing to Hawaii, any of the Navy, any of the Air Force that are going to Joint Base Pearl Harbor-Hickam. If you hit the like button, it'll definitely help them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified anytime that I upload a new video on this channel. And lastly, like I said, we get people, soldiers just like you, reaching out all the time, shooting us a text, sending us an email, scheduling their own Zooms down in the description below. We just did a Zoom yesterday with another service member PCSing out here. We absolutely love helping military service members make their way out here, understand the island, understand the culture. We absolutely love it, and you can do exactly the same thing. I talked about leading that Hawaii Kai vlog tour. We got tons of other vlog tours. If you want to check out some of the communities that I've mentioned on this video, you can go check those out on this channel. There's an entire playlist that's going to pop up for you right now.